good morning and a warm welcome on our next webinar called Green is the New Black, ESG Trends Transforming Retail Banking. My name is Maciej Meder. I'm Executive Manager in our Polish subsidiary of zeb.consulting, and I would have a pleasure to host today's event and also run to the panel discussion. First of all, I would like to warmly welcome our speakers who will share their experience in the second part of our today's webinar. So welcome to Andrzej Budasz from BNP Paribas, to Kadri Wunde-Fontana from Luminor Group, Anna Miazga, mBank, Michalina Romanowska from Santander Bank Polska, and Uli Hoyer from ZTB, who will have a chance to make a short introduction to our webinar. So welcome to all of you. Good morning.
Hello.
Let me shortly introduce the agenda. I would like to run the next roughly 1.5 hours. As mentioned, we would like to do a brief introduction to the topic of ESG and retail banking, and this part will be conducted by Ulrich Hoyer. Just afterwards, we will switch to the panel discussion, and we'll have about an hour to discuss all the interesting aspects of ESG in retail banking. And afterwards, we'll have a short summary and closing. A few remarks at the beginning, especially to the audience. You are currently muted, but you can share your comments, questions using the chat function, and feel free to do so. We will try also to answer the questions, and if you drop me here in the chat function a question, we will pick it up during the panel and address it. So do not wait for the end of the webinar, but feel free to enter your questions during the event, and we will be looking at them and addressing them. Secondly, the webinar is recorded, and we will share it shortly after the event. So if you cannot stay until the very end, do not worry. We will record the whole session and provide you a link in a couple of days after some small editing of the recording, and we put it online. The same applies to the presentation. We will share during the event and present some slides. We will distribute it also after the event. So I would now pass to Uli. Uli, the floor is yours, and please introduce us to the topic.
Maciej, thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Uli Hoyer, partner at ZDB. I'm leading the practice group Retail Banking. Have something like 25 years of experience in retail banking consulting. Was a branch manager in previous years, so basically decades ago. Very much looking forward to give some introductory words with a couple of slides, obviously, just to warm up with the topics, and also very curious on how our panelists are commenting and what's their perspective. So jumping directly in, what we are building on is basically also a couple of our studies, which I would like to introduce on our first page here, which is about to be seen now. One of which is our broad European retail banking study, where we look on many country markets within Europe. I come to that in a second. So we looking on revenue pools, for example, and how the business in the respective country markets, and then from an overall European perspective as well, is structures will develop, what are the trends, etc. Secondly, we have ESG maturity study within European banks. So we surveyed individual large banks across Europe about their current status, about maturity, about challenges of the respective banks when it comes to sustainability transformation. And thirdly, we have a small piece of work, a small study, where we directly asked end consumers, so customers of retail banks, about ESG and consumer finance topics. All three studies are publicly available, so if you are interested, you can drop a note to Maciej, to myself, to our team. Happy to distribute it to you, happy to discuss it with you in detail, also with respect to the needs of your individual organization. I will, in the following couple of slides, also build on these studies, but also, again, additional comments, additional experiences out of our project are also incorporated in these initial statements. Let's have a first look on the retail banking study across Europe. And again, I mentioned it's not all country markets within Europe, but a selected number of them. So mainly, for example, German-speaking Europe, France, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Poland, Sweden, and Romania are covered here in that. We have obviously also other views on other markets. Happy to contribute that on individual requests. And what we can see is that in the last decade, we have observed a pretty constant, and between the years 2018 to 2021, a slightly declining revenue pool overall in these markets. So basically all which is valid in a core trend for the entire European landscape. Since the revival of interest rates, so basically the rebirth of interest, and the overall turnaround of the yield curves, we can observe on the one side that the deposit business obviously has returned with an almost, let's say, explosion in the year 23, so last year, due to the significant time lag of passing on more attractive interest rates to the end customer. So hence leading to a substantially improved margin for all participating banks in all country markets. On the other hand, due to the significant revenue growth in everyday banking, the overall market size also has strongly increased. In the upcoming years, we expect a stabilization at a slightly lower level compared to 23, but significant higher than in previous years. This means that basically all in all, retail banking is once again much more attractive than it used to be during the previous decade. Also what changed as well is basically the structure within the overall revenue pool. So in the last decade, when we stayed at a level of roughly 190 billion euro per year, it was quite equally distributed between the everyday banking section and the mortgage loans, with an additional substantially cluster of consumer loans, while basically savings and investments, deposits, was not existing or basically minimal. Again, as I mentioned, this has changed pretty much. And so the overall market is way more attractive. So making business, improving business, and investing in business pays off again, which is a development we observe currently across all country markets and basically also across all banking institutions and banking groups, market participants. This is a sort of forward that we currently look, in at least our eyes, a very attractive and substantially improved market, which is basically the foundation for investing and looking on trends and being able to react on trends as overall economic situation has improved substantially. When we look a little bit deeper on the ESG perspective, and again, I mentioned that we've done this survey amongst large banks across the European landscape, which we call our ESG maturity study. I want to highlight basically 5 core points, to put it this way. And this study is pretty much hot off the press. It's basically on the first-hand side, no surprise that banks have recognized ESG as a very important factor, as a very important topic. But ESG importance is mainly driven or only driven by regulation and stakeholder expectations. It's not sufficiently driven by a straight business perspective. This is one thing we observe and where we get proof by the survey results. For many banks, the net zero ambition, for example, is a clear and obvious thing, which is well accepted and written on the headlines. But having an ambition and, on the other hand, having difficulties in measuring and implementing it, unfortunately, are belonging together, are two sides of a coin, which is currently more or less every institution facing across the European landscape. A similar status can be observed when it comes to risk. ESG risks are hardly quantified. In addition, appropriate data is rarely available, and banks need to rely on external data providers. And then it's finally a business. It's about business. And basically, in my personal opinion, it's not enough to just offer a few products that meet ESG criteria, or let's say to have sustainability funds on the shelf, as long as the bank as a whole cannot credibly demonstrate that the entire company is positioned and developed and managed according to sustainable criteria. A customer survey for a sustainability study in Central Europe, which we did something like 2 years ago, showed, for example, that the proportion of customers who are basically open and interested to sustainability issues in their everyday lives, not really only in financial services, but really in everyday lives, and who want to gradually make their everyday lives more sustainable, has grown from less than 20% in 2014 to around half of the population in the last couple of years. So there's an increase in openness, in curiosity about these topics. However, not everybody is constantly and really very stably sticking to these topics. But again, people are interested, they want to behave, but do they really do the utmost to fulfill on that? Not really. There's a smaller clientele of particularly convinced and very consistent customers, which basically can be called, let's say, sustainability advocates, who live more or less unconditionally according to sustainable principles on the other hand. This is basically now roughly about 10% of the population, while the latter deliberately select their financial service partners and corresponding products strictly according to these aspects. The former one, so meaning the one I just mentioned, about half of the population, are basically open but do not do an extra effort to correspond with criteria towards sustainability. And this means, at least in my eyes, that ESG products and services must be actively offered to these customers. It must be pointed out that the bank is positioning itself according to ESG criteria, and the differences must be clear and actively highlighted towards these customers. If it's not done, then the customer will fall back on conventionally offerings without missing anything. So they don't actively search for it. It need to be sold. It need to be communicated. And this brings us full circle to the points mentioned above. The positioning of ESG within competition, anchor it in its strategy, breaking down a net zero ambition so that it can be also communicated and explained to interested customers, must be driven forward with very much more power than it used to be. And this is basically the learning of our study here. Again, we can dive in a little more deeper on the following slide. There is, with all these respect to these 5 dimensions or core fields of actions, as we called it, there's a little bit of a difference between very large bank and regional banks or regional banking institutions and organizations, especially when it comes to, for example, net zero ambition. The large banks are a little bit more developed on this side. On the other hand, when it reflects to number 5 business opportunities, where I commented a little bit longer, in our view and our analysis shows that the survey results are hinting into a direction that regional banks are a little bit more evolved and a little bit more better developed than the large banks. Again, slight differences. We are happy to share the detailed results with you upon request. So please give us a note in case you are interested on these topics. If we look a little bit forward, and I picked out from retail banking one example, which I want to share with you. I want to show you some insights of a recent piece of work within consumer finance, which we did, and which I deliberately picked as it's not the typical next green investment opportunity or a wooden credit card or something similar to a mortgage product for energetic renovation or so. But it's consumer finance, a product where many of the European market participants are earning a decent portion of profit with it, and which at least a couple of years ago, in my naive perspective, I had not on the top 3 list of being relevant for ESG deliberations. But the study showed that more of half of the customers are interested. A number which corresponds, by the way, with our previous mentioned studies. The core learning is the younger, the more interested. The same holds for household income. The richer, the more interested, the more open for these topics. Still, what I learned from that, unfortunately, ESG compliance for an individual's perspective is something you need to afford for. Surprisingly, in that thing is that still there's a larger, a decreasing portion, of people who are not interested at all, which is basically 1 in 5 correspondents. So basically 20% really do not care anything about sustainability. The rest is gradually open. And again, this corresponds what we learned a couple of years ago. Basically, half of the population is pretty much opened. So appreciates sustainability offerings, but does not actively seek for sustainability solutions, for ESG-driven solutions in each and every aspect. They also are open, just learning from their daily lives, for financial services and financial solutions, which are pretty straightforward and do not have to do anything in common with ESG criteria. Unfortunately, but again, this number is growing. Again, have in mind roughly 10%, a little bit varying across the country markets, are advocates and who really actively drive the decisions for products within financial services according to sustainable criteria. If we look a little bit more deeper into that, what again was surprising for me is that within consumer finance, the electric vehicles are the asset which consumers show the highest interest in. One could say that the overall interest seems to be quite low, as all figures are below the 30%. So currently our study found that 28% of the customers we asked will seek advice for financing or leasing solutions for electric vehicles in the next 2 years. Again, I was surprised that this figure was the highest compared to other topics like heating systems, like building modernization, and so on and so forth. However, the good news for many banks is that the consumers seek information, in many cases for the underlying need, so the car, the modernization, but also for the financial product itself. And since all these topics are substantial investments for the individual household, the need for information and seeking for information for the asset itself and for the financial solution is something which belongs strongly together, which is good for banks, as people need help, as bank can bring a lot of information to the table. But again, since the existing reluctancy of end customers, this needs to be actively promoted. It needs to actively be brought to the customer interface, because the customer itself is not seeking financial information towards sustainability, towards ESG products actively by a bank. Many of them wait for it or seek it elsewhere. And finally, a little bit of a, let's say, fun fact. We've digged in one of the figures on the following and our last page, coming from the German market, where we currently see a little bit of a dump in the demand for electric vehicles. But again, we asked the customers, and the good news is maybe it's a little bit due to the respective structure of the German market, with a lot of regional banks, with a lot of traditional banking offers, that more than half of the customers seek the information on sustainable financing of electric vehicles at traditional banks, preferably online, but also offline. So it's a pretty balanced structure and with regards to the answers, where the customers does seek information and with whom he wants to talk about that. Given that there is a core interest in electric vehicles in the next 2 years, it's the traditional banks, both online and offline. It's obviously online platforms, but also it's the car dealer. I personally, again, a little bit of a naive perspective maybe, would have expected the car dealer and online platforms way higher and would not have expected that half of the people still go to traditional banks. But basically, since we are among bankers, this is a good news. Maybe a little bit biased to the German market, cannot a one-to-one transport it to other markets situation. But again, we can do this analysis in case you're interested in these types of things. And again, coming from a broad European retail banking perspective with a strongly increased market, drilling down to ESG criteria, and with a sort of fun fact example from electric vehicle financing, I want to close this initial statement. I'm happy to share the insights with all of you, happy to discuss it bilaterally. Thanks for attention.
Thank you, Uli, for the introduction and the insights from different European markets. As mentioned before, we'd like now to move to the panel discussion. And for those who joined us a bit later, I would like to reintroduce our panel speakers, panelists who are with us today. Andrzej Budasz from BNP Paribas Poland, Kadri Wunderfontana from Luminor Group from Estonia, Anna Miazga, mBank, also Poland, and Michalina Romanowska, Santander Bank Polska. So welcome from my side, and we move to the discussion. So first question, which I would like to ask, because I mean we deliberately focused the event today on retail banking because there was a lot of attention in the different ESG strategies of the banks on corporate banking clients, transformation of these clients and supporting them with financing. But we noticed that there is much less attention, at least in the public statements, regarding retail banking. And I would like to ask, when you look on your overall sustainability agenda, how important is retail banking, and what is the focus of your works in the coming months or already currently? Maybe we'll start with Kadri.
So good day also from my side, and thank you for this interesting slide. So I watched it now with very big curiosity to see the maturities, especially because I know we've been struggling with all of those topics, or we've been building them up over the last 4 years. So your question about how do retail banks integrate this, the ESG principles, and what do they really do? So I see it on 4 levers mostly. So, and this confirms also the slides what we saw before. So I see from one side, overall, the retail banks are aligning themselves with the major frameworks like TCFD, GRI, the Global Sustainable Development Goals, and Paris Agreement. So the companies set targets and goals in lines of those frameworks. And based on this also, this means that they have to cascade them down into shorter term targets and more granular objectives, such as emissions reduction on financed emissions and portfolio. And this means, especially for the retail sector relevant for mortgages or vehicles, this means issuing green loans or limiting the risk exposure, so limiting the exposure to low energy efficient cars at specific time points or mortgage collaterals. What we also see is that a very large part of the work is about risk management. And risk management means, again, so like the low energy efficient mortgages, for example. So the step 1 means understanding what the risk is, and most of the risk is embedded in the low energy efficiency, leading to higher operating cost of those buildings or higher monthly cost for the customers, and the ability to serve back the loans. I think these are the 3 main areas where we see this ESG principles integration. And obviously the banks are working on their own footprint and operational activities as well, but it is very marginal in comparison to the financing activities.
Andrzej, can you also comment on the focus of retail? Because I know that you are, I think, primarily focused on this part of the business.
It was years ago, but it was. Yeah. We are lucky as BNP Polska, we are lucky that we have integrated all ESG aspects into our strategy. So we do not have any dedicated ESG agenda, which is separate from our regular business approach. Our strategy, which is called Go Beyond, lasts till end of 2025. And a part of typical business and employees focus, one of the pillar is dedicated for ESG. ESG perceived not only as a financing, as we've been talking before, but also as being a part of the, let's say, ESG ambassador, ESG influencer, ESG player on local markets, etc. So I know that in the beginning we've been talking about financing aspects because it generates most income for the banks, but we are not focusing only on financing. We also would like to deliver investment and savings products, which are very much focused on ESG aspects. As Kadri mentioned, we also focus on our own operations, because it's obvious that once we are forcing our customers to transform into less emission activity, we as a bank need to follow the emission decrease also. So and last but not least, retail is only a part of our activity. You mentioned that corporate banking is also important. Frankly, in our bank, corporate is more important because it requires more money, and it is really the game changer or the transformer of the total economy will be driven by the transformation of corporate customers.
Okay, thank you, Andrzej. Maybe Michalina, if you just could comment also on this focus. I mean, in your case, I mean, regarding retail banking versus other business areas, and maybe also what Andrzej also already indicated, and I also wanted to ask regarding, I mean, there are different areas like investments, lending, maybe daily banking as well. So, I mean, is there any focus in your activities, ESG activities regarding this also, I would say, product areas?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. And yes, we've got the same resolution like BNP. So our strategy, ESG is part of our strategy, and strategies cover short period, 2 or 3 years. And we've got the important achievement goals in the strategy for ESG. And for us, we set the goals for the climate protection, especially for climate protection, reductions of own emission, and active support for customers in their decarbonization and financing for customers. So we've got a lot of sustainable and transformation projects conducting activities for the environmental, including financing energy and efficiency investment for the retail banking, especially for our small clients, like individual clients, and we start to the green loan and the green investment, and we've got a lot of open project for the SME clients. So we cover all this part of our business, like retail banking.
Is there any particular focus? I mean, especially recently, I mean, is it more investments? Is it more, green lending or energy transformation lending?
Yeah, and my part is the green financing. So I can say the green financing is really important for me and for my team. But we've got a lots of project also in investments because we see a lot of people, a lot of clients ask us about the loan, but the same group ask us about the investment. So they have a money and they try to invest this, but they looking after to the product which one have the the green label.
Okay, thank you. I will just last intro question regarding focus of retail versus other areas to Anna from mBank. If you could maybe also share your perspective, and we'll move on to next areas.
Yeah, thanks. So I have this quite unique perspective as Chief Sustainability Officer to look at every part of the bank and see, where ESG is there. And I cannot agree more with what Ulrich said during his presentation, that we need to look at the bank as a whole in terms of ESG, which does not exclude focusing on different areas also. And when we look at the history of banking strategies through a couple of years, you will see that we were focusing firstly on own operations, then corporate, but I think that the time for retail is coming right now. And besides what Kadri said about what we can do, and I couldn't agree more with her diagnosis, I feel that there is one more thing that is emerging, is influencing our individual clients in terms of decarbonization, which Andrzej and Michalina talk about. I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion in the next months or maybe even years about how we can influence our clients and if we should influence our clients in terms of decarbonization, because there's a huge new trend about humanizing sustainability, but you could invite me on different webinar about it. I could take hours. But when it comes to mBank, we were starting with finance health, for example. So we are also trying to motivate, look at the behavior and act on our responsibility for the finance health of our clients. So it could go somewhere near decarbonization in the next, I don't know, months and years, but that's our starting point. And I think it's still quite a new approach that we are trying on. But very much needed, because Ulrich showed us very promising stats about us being wealthier. But when you look at the upcoming crises in demographic area in Europe, when you look at the outcomes of climate changes that will touch, our salaries, for example, we still should be very much focused on the finance health of our clients, which is win-to-win situation also for us as a banks.
If you say influencing the clients, I mean, you mean influencing the behavior, reducing their CO2 impact? I mean, what do you mean by just, if you just could elaborate a bit more on that topic? I mean, how far are you want to go in terms of influencing the clients?
It's mostly about education, about giving tools to better understand the way they are spending money, for example, the way they are doing their everyday, businesses with us. On the decarbonization, it's not what mBank is doing right now, but I know that there is a lot of discussion, and probably if I ask Michalina and Andrzej, they've been approached by some agencies with the offer of decarbonization clients in the retail banking, they would say that, I can see the face that that more and more offers and services are there to give clients better understanding how the spending habits are influencing the carbon footprint. And again, I would say that's a discussion about it, if it's the way that we should be going, because there is, the whole new pushback on sustainability, because we're trying to ask society to change maybe a little bit too much when we are not changing the system and the system is not comfortable to be sustainable. And that's called humanizing sustainability. But I'm not going to open this Pandora box right now. I would just say that there are talks and discussions, and I think that's going to be an emerging trend in the next couple of months.
Okay. Once you said, I would say, showing the clients or making transparent the footprint which they leave. I was just wondering if because on the bank's agenda also the digital transformation is very high. Yeah? I mean, there are a lot of investments into digital tools. Also some cooperations with startups, and I see that also this sometimes relates to ESG area, so some kind of CO2 calculators or any other tools which could help clients to be aware about their CO2 footprint. And I just want to ask maybe Andrzej, I think also in your case, I saw some examples and cooperations with startups. I mean, how important is also this digital part in the ESG agenda? So, I mean, are you using these opportunities? Is it important? Or, I mean, are we talking more about, let's say, face-to-face education of the clients by the advisors in the normal brick and mortar branches?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that the digital transformation or digital channel or digital tools are playing a different role in terms of ESG than the digitalization plays itself. Everybody knows that there is no other way. The number of branches are going to be limited. And our relationship with customers are going to be transferred to remote channels, definitely. We can ask how long does it take, but definitely this is the trend, this is the path we are going to follow. Of course, we have started, the banking sector or financing sector, or we have started increasing cooperation with all startups in pandemic time, once any physical relationships were limited, and the trend is continuing. But frankly, I wouldn't say that there's any specific in ESG in digital transformation. Of course, I can follow what Anna said a minute before, that we are using the digital tools to, let's say, educate, to influence our customers to change their behavior in the way we would like them to change. But it is regular business approach, I would say.
Okay. Maybe Kadri, if you could also comment on that, to what extent the digital tools can be helpful, or to what extent also you are investing into this direction in terms of education of clients in the ESG topics?
I think it's a really good question, because from one side, I fully agree with Andrzej that the customer end-to-end journey, I think the technology plays a similar role here. What I see where the ESG-related innovation and technology comes into play is directly interlinked to the maturity of the ESG developments, what we have. And I see two main places what we are working with the technology at the moment from our side. And one is the customer due diligence and background search and data collection. And the other side is reporting. And so if I'm going into the first side first, so we, for example, standardized an ESG customer data collection questionnaire across the Baltic banks and the industry, so that we would have one standard set of questions what we are asking, so that one customer doesn't need to fill the same questionnaire for 4 different parties, but they could do like one side. And at the moment we're in the phases of digitizing this. What we are also looking at, because the due diligence questions, so not only the environmental questions, but also the social and governance related questions, they require different and new ways of doing this customer background check and controversies checks. And there's some really cool and fancy tools available there already, like, I don't know, like Impactly, for example, an Estonian company that enables the due diligence on investment cases, and they're very artificial intelligence supported tooling, providing and linking to the various registries, getting the data into one dashboard. So these are things what we are looking in order to make our own internal processes more efficient, consolidate the dashboards in order to not to be only the askers of information from our customers, but actually to see the information and to drive these discussions about the direction of the targets of the customers or customer target setting, about potential measures, what to implement for emission reduction, for example. So these are the spaces I really see the technology as an absolute enabler, and without the technology, it's not even possible, because if we are to suggest and discuss with customers about their transition plan, their emission reduction target, and measures to get there, or those abatement levers, then every single abatement lever has its CapEx, its OpEx, and its emission reduction potential attached to them. And in order to prioritize those, especially for smaller customers, it's the competencies is difficult to obtain for them on the market. And here I see that relationship managers can be a big catalyst, but they need tools and technology to enable that. And the other side that I really see a big advancement for technology is reporting, because we did our CSRD aligned report for the first time for 2023 report. And we saw that using the conventional tools and Word and Excel for tracking and sign-offs, it's extremely painful. So having a technology-enabled tool there to manage the flow of these processes, I think is going to bring a massive amount of efficiencies and like a smoother flow, better transparency in these things. So these two things I see as in the first instance. So customers, tools, data, and reporting.
Okay. Michalina, maybe can you also share on the digital tools aspect, especially as you are a part of the group which is present in multiple markets, and I know that also you are leveraging such solutions, I would say, cross-border in different markets. I mean, do you have any specific focus on this, I would say, digital tools?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the important is to tell us that the digital transformation involves the entire organization. So a lot of small parts of organization. And if it's required changes in process and business models, adapted strategies, the way we communicate at work, customer relations, reports, more and more. So if we have like in my organization, a few a small project like Poland, Spain, Portugal, and we try to connect every single part. The technology help us to like develop the target model operation for us. So we work with the local government, but we still have the same line. And in my opinion, special for the customer expect banks to invest part of the profits in social activities and reduce their carbon footprint. And they also expect to us to use the new technology. And like we said before, technology help us to plays the important role to report the ESG initiative, like we can reporting, improving organization to effective collect, analyze, and report the relevant data. So in my side and in my opinion, technology is really important and help us to improve the ESG model.
Okay, thank you. mBank Consulting is also one of the digital leaders, and just wondering, Anna, I mean, to what extent also, let's say, this digital aspect is important in terms of ESG topics in your case?
Well, I would even say, Marty, that digitalization is the second name of mBank, and I will give you 4 numbers to prove that. The first one is that over 80,000 accounts were opened only online using, Selfie and EID last year. More than 600,000 e-government matters were handled through mBank platform. And when it comes to different cases and the issues, almost 26% of them were resolved by our voice bot last year. And it's mostly because almost 2 million of our customers are using only the mobile application in digital channels. Like I've never been in our office, in our brick and mortar branches. And because it's such a big part of our everyday operations, of course, we're looking at it with, ESG lens, as on everything else. And we see a great positive impact on our ESG metrics. The first one would be we are more effective this way. And we can use this energy and use these resources to focus also on other things. With expanding remote banking services, we can reduce the need for physical branches and cutting down the associated costs like energy, emissions and whatnot. We are very much promoting digital payment now with the Ring. Even you can pay at mBank, which again helps us, to reduce the environmental impact of cash handling and transportation and things like that. So we are trying to measure, we are trying to understand that, and it helps us very much in the retail banking. When it comes to the rest of the company, what Kadri said, before mBank, I used to work for a technology consultant in ESG, so I know how much important it is. And I'm also always a big advocate to focus our people energy not on collecting data. We have hundreds of softwares who can do that, but to focus them on understanding the data, to manage the data, to be focused on what the number will be in the next 5 years, not spend hours to collect it from different places in the organization. And that's what technology is for. And the same is will be with the retail, with the corporate, with everything else. We need to focus we need to shift focus of our people to understanding the behavior, understanding the management, not so much on those simple tasks that can be done and can be automated, can be done by technology.
But I would like maybe to continue a bit into this direction of digitization tools, because you mentioned, okay, I understand, okay, if we are transforming, shifting the clients more to digital channels, I mean, we can save also some energy because we don't have so many brick and mortar branches. We are not using so much paper. Our process is leaner, more efficient, and then also more, let's say, ESG compliant. But I'm just wondering also in terms of digital solutions and the topic of platforms. Does this also create some additional business opportunity to banks? Because I know that some banks are experimenting with some, let's say, ESG solution platforms where basically the bank is the aggregator of different solutions. So for instance, also we worked for one client where we said, okay, if you want to buy an electric car, maybe you need also a charger. I mean, and you have to also install it into your home place. And I mean, these are 2 different or 3 different suppliers, and you get everything from one hand, and we finance the whole package. And I mean, you do it with 5 clicks on our webpage, and you have it. Do you also share it, or I mean? That maybe this is also additional business opportunity just to create some platforms, or you believe, okay, maybe banks are not this place, I mean, this for this one-stop shopping, and this will be provided by some e-commerce platforms, which we will specialize on that. What is your opinion, Anna?
Okay, so I will make short comment that is connecting the last question to this one, that we cannot also forget about the environmental impact of digitalization. We are already in mBank calculating, for example, our technology footprint of our servers and things like that. So like it's not for free. The digitalization, I was talking that we can cut on emissions on the buildings, but it's not to zero. Like there'll still be some footprint connected to digitalization. So just want to say that. When it comes to the platform, I do believe that the bank is a place that is a little bit built on a trust between the customer and the organization. And there is a trend to use this trust, and the use this trust is what sounds very nicely, but to channel this special relationship to also different services. I've read somewhere, some kind of report, that there are already 250 different value-added services in the banking industry in Europe. I cannot imagine what they are. There's so many.
I think even more. Yeah, even we did also similar research. It's plenty of use cases. I think it's hundreds, really.
So here you go. Like we see, definitely as a banking industry, we see opportunity there. We are also thinking about some ESG services for our clients, probably starting with the SMEs. But we are also, working on our Mkasia platform. VeloBank has their, what's it called, Vero Market, I think. So it is a trend, but I think what's the most important thing to say, that it's all built on the trust and the image and the relationship that the banks have with the customers. So we are trying to monetize this, but also I hope with the ESG lens, we're not going to forget about it.
Okay. Kadri, Estonia is also, I think, world-known leader in digitization. I think this is one of the aspects which I think the country was really promoted with recently. And just wondering, I mean, what is the role of such platforms offering ESG solutions? I mean, do you see some space? I mean, business opportunity for banks as well, or I mean, or you have different observations or market practices in this respect, that maybe there are some other players who will take over this role, and banks will be only providing, for instance, financing, but not, I would say, the complete package of solutions for retail clients.
I haven't seen yet these platforms on the market. So what we see more platforms that are aggregating different stakeholders around the same topic is data at the moment, data reporting, due diligence services. So, in order to do, for example, due diligence across the value chain. So we see these aggregators that collect different stakeholders on the same platform, and they can ask the same questionnaires on their value chain partners. That's, for example, one direction we see. We see across the financial industry in the whole Baltic. So we did it through the local banking associations, created this kind of a pan-Baltic data and climate and environmental risk topics task force. And through this platform, through the financial industry, we have aggregated the need for climate risk data, and are working on verbalizing this as a demand towards the local state for development of those data. But customer facing, so I've seen solutions like apps for example, for mortgage customers or homeowners, that enable the calculation, for example, or improvement by 30% of the energy efficiency. And then the app makes a suggestion, install, I don't know, do installation of your roof and install solar panels, and like a whole shopping list of activities, what can be done. But also these platforms or apps, I have not seen that they would aggregate yet the different service providers as well, that you can just procure then those. It just calculates and enables the classification or assessment. So I think there is space on the market for these tools, especially for the energy efficiency improvement space, the way I see. But I think it is very, very complex. Like, for example, for corporate banking, if you're looking there for those emission reduction solutions, because it is very complex on how to actually get to this net zero. And I don't really see that it's possible to aggregate all those service providers onto one platform and connect them also through the payment options, because it's too complex in my opinion.
Andrzej? I see your hand. Yeah.
Yes, I'm raising my hand. Just continuing our discussion in terms of, let's say, complex platform. We as BNP has one experience, very limited approach. The platform is dedicated for financing cars. Of course, there are some preferential rates and offer for the electric. Zero emission cars, but this is only a part. And I agree with colleagues who said that creating the marketplace is very complex, but definitely we as banks can leverage on our credibility, on the trust we have across our customers and prospects. And I think this is the approach we should follow up. Maybe there will be no such a wide marketplace as VeloBank is, because there is no speciality on this platform. This is, let's say, for everyone, for everything, I would say. But we can focus, for example, on thermomodernization. This is very challenging issue. The rules are getting tougher. The calendar is shrinking, I would say. So, and probably the knowledge among our customers is very limited. The money which are necessary for running such a exercise are rather huge. So people are trying to find a way what they should do, how they should do. Is anyone who can help them in financing such a investment? So this is the place. This is the place where banks can play significant role.
Michalina, if you could comment also on that, I would also refer, I would say, to your, group which is present on many markets. Maybe some examples, or maybe you can share also your view on the Polish specifics, if there is some room or additional business opportunity for banks in this area, just to create some kind of platform aggregating services like thermomodernization, or maybe some other areas which could improve, I would say, ESG footprint of retail clients.
Yeah, for me, important is add, I think, 2 or 3 things. First of all, is it's difficult to create platform just because we need to connect a lot of things, like the colleague said. The second part is manage the greenwashing risk. It's really a fancy topic now in the market. So we need to manage this risk, and we need to create some solution, like, okay, if I've got some market and we try to create the thermomodernization platform, and I'm in a bank and I'm just financing this project, but we've got some partnerships, and do I need to check this partnership? If I need what I need to check, so we should be complying with the taxonomy. And I think the last things important for me is how the customer create their plan, like the thermomodernization building. Just because even if we've got the thermomodernization and we try to do the best like we do, and the customer finish his project, and still this building is not complying with the taxonomy, is the ESG product or no. So we need to check all these steps. And for us, like the Santander, important was to be prepare some calculator, and we've got the 2 calculators for the individual clients and for the SME clients, and they can successfully calculate their carbon footprint. And the second part, we try to building some solution for the customer, which one they think about the improve their carbon footprint. So we will see, but still, for me, it's a big challenge, especially for this part of the ESG topic now is the fancy topic in the market, and the second is the taxonomy and the greenwashing. Still, we need to manage this and connect these things.
Can I have a short comment on that?
Sure.
What Michał said? Because I think it's very interesting what you said, and we need to remember that. And I can see that we are often blocking ourselves with new initiatives because we are so afraid of greenwashing. Even if we are doing our best, it's really not a black and white situation, or I don't know, green and white situation of flip. So that's one thing. And also with this new value-added services, even if they are not specifically directly connected with ESG, there's still responsibility, like what the supplier is selling that merchant. Like, has it been done, made, with due diligence on the human rights part? Where has it came from? I don't know. Hasn't been taxes paid? Whatever. So whatever we're doing, and coming back a little bit to the first question and looking at the whole, with all those new processes, we always need to be very aware of what we are saying, and is it right with our statements and our values around ESG.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just put this for discussion because I think a lot of people, perceive, I would say, ESG topic as an additional burden, additional requirements, regulatory topic. But on the other hand, I believe there are plenty of opportunities, and some banks, when I'm talking to them, they say, okay, it's not only burden, it creates some traction, I mean, with our clients, because they read in the press about the topic and they want to do something. I would say this mainly refers to corporate clients, and this leads me a bit to the next question regarding client engagement. Yeah, because I think, of course, here we are among specialists, and you wake up in the morning and know and would like to discuss the whole day the ESG agenda. On the other hand, if we are thinking about the regular banking client, I do not believe that when he drinks his morning or her morning coffee, I mean, the ESG is so high on the agenda, and I would like to plan my day doing something about ESG. So this leads me to the question, I mean, how banks, because the banks need somehow to educate their clients about the impact, about the necessity to do something in terms of, for instance, investment products. You even obliged, I mean, just to ask about preferences of the clients. And I think majority of the clients, when you ask them the question, okay, ESG criteria important for your investments, they are just wondering, oh, what the heck is that? I mean, why are you asking this question? What does it mean for me in particular? So what educational measures, I mean, you plan or are you already doing in order to improve the client's awareness of the ESG topic? Maybe Andrzej, if you could start, please.
Tough question.
Yeah.
Even if I said before that we are going to we would like to play important role in local societies, and we would like to, let's say, educate our customers. Those actions are quite limited, I would say, frankly. Of course, if you can see our advertisements, they are quite often related to ESG. But this is advertising. So the main reason we are doing so, it's to improve the brand perceiving, it's the increasing sales, increasing recognition, etc. So frankly, this is education of our customers is still in front of us. As I mentioned before, we are working, for example, we are working on the platform dedicated for certain area of ESG financing for retail customers. And the platform will start with the education panel, I would say. So we would like to provide customers, firstly, the background for the market situation. We would like to describe the challenge which is in front of those customers. We would like to support them on the path of the transformation. And last but not least, in the end, we are going to finance the investment which the customers potentially can take. But if the customer will choose another bank to finance the investment, it's fine for us. So we do believe that this platform will not be dedicated for selling our products, for selling financing. The platform will be dedicated to help people to transform. This is I would say, the educational part of our activity. It's still in front of us, but we know that we should follow this approach.
Kadri, maybe if you could just comment on this educational measures, because I think it's extremely important, but also interesting topic.
It is indeed very, very interesting, because before going into education, I think how far, maybe a statement, I think our world is burning, so everybody needs to take action, our customers and ourselves. And this means the change starts with building those capabilities and understanding why we need to do. So it's like the very, very basics that are the first that people need to understand. And then it gets more complex, like how do you really take the action? In our case, across the Baltics, we built up these educational programs, first building capabilities and know-how within the employees internally. And for this, we have developed in-house several modules like ESG basics training. We have ESG climate and environmental risk training. We have climate and environmental risk impact on reputation training. We have human rights trainings. So they're like different aspects in terms of internal trainings. The new thing what we launched is within the company is a so-called climate risk training. And this is a training module that has been developed in France by the scientists on the back of the IPCC report, showing the interconnectedness of all those changes that are happening. And in France, it's a very, very successful program. So almost every single pupil and scholar has made it through. So we trained our own facilitators, the first batch so we completed in May this year, and have initiated now this so-called snowball effect, so that we would train also our own further facilitators, so they would train the further employees, because really, we really want to put through the whole employees, all the employees of Luminor. And we also started rolling it out into the schools around us, because it's like the basic understanding what everybody needs. Now, in terms of making the change happen and for customer education, so there are two sides. One thing is we started already 3 years ago with a series of climate seminars about like starting from the basics. What is climate risk? How do you measure it? What are the greenhouse gas emissions? What kind of risks are faced by customers in different sectors? And we've done like a couple of rounds now. We're doing a second round, getting into deep dives of like what are the actions, what you can really do. And they are publicly available. Some of them on our website, some of them are only for the customers, so can be accessed through our relationship managers. We've done all of those seminars in collaboration with external experts and consultancies to provide.
And how does it resonate with the clients, if I may ask? I mean, is there a huge interest, or?
There is a keen interest for this one, especially if it's depending on where the customers are. So I don't know, for example, in autumn, September time, we've done now 2 years in a row seminars about reporting. So obviously then there are those customers who really are interested in reporting. We've done agriculture seminars. So then it's very sector specific, and there are also relevant questions then being posed. What we also see is, because they are accessible via web links, we see a lot of people are watching or viewing them afterwards. And it's both internally, so internal people, we use it as in-house trainings for our relationship managers, but also externally. But we see that a lot of work still needs to be done, because like on some aspects, also within our internal bank in-house, saying that relationship managers wouldn't say, okay, this is another ESG questionnaire, we need to do it because of compliance, because that's not it. We need our customers to move. We are in the boat all together. So the whole society needs to change. And I think companies who are today on the market, they will not be here in 2050 if they don't change their business models and behaviors. And the same thing is with the customers. They will need to change because the world is changing. And I think this means from our side, it is a really long journey and we are just in the beginning of it. And I think here also joining forces with other companies, like building this so-called, we as banks have to be the front runners on financial literacy. We see it now that we have to become the front runners on green literacy and build up nationwide programs and support the state in building it up, because I think from one side, it's also our own interest, because if customers reduce their emissions, they reduce their transition risk. So they become much easier financeable by the banks and by us. So the more they know, the more they do, the better they are for us and for the world.
Mm-hmm. Anna, could you please comment also on the educational measures on your side or the plans as well?
Of course. Yeah. So I've mentioned at the beginning that when it comes to retail customers, we are very much focused on the financial health. And we are doing a lot in this area, to be honest. We have these 6 principles of healthy finances, and it's in the form of a guidance that the customer can see and get reminder from the platform. The first one is stay safe online, protect your data and money, and make sure you have a financial cushion, get ready for turbulent times, having a power of attorney, for example, on a joint account when something's happened, which I think not all of us are remembering of. Borrow money only when you really need it, invest in the future, and control your spending habits. And it is connected with this personal finance manager that I mentioned before. And we do have with Unipify goal around that. We want at least 50% of our clients to be financially resilient for the future. And we are monitoring the behavior of our customers in this tool, in the personal finance manager. And we've already seen that they're more eager to have saving products there. They are more eager to invest, and they have less issues in repayment of cash when they loan something. So we see that it is working and that there is a shift in the behavior. We also do a lot of educational projects, especially for the young customers. For example, last year we have this project dedicated primarily to teach them how to build a positive credit record. We explained the concept associated with the credit process and suggested what steps are necessary to prepare for it. With Warsaw Institute of Banking, we have this project called Captivated by Economics, where we are again teaching young people how to have a healthy attitude towards finance and some kind of lesson scenarios that were shared with different schools across Poland. We have a page, I have no idea how to translate it. In Polish, it's Twoja spokojna głowa. In English, would be your calm head, I would say, which helps ensure your healthy personal finance. And you can set some goals there, see, the 6 principles and just, play it with a little bit, just a funny way to educate yourself. And the last but not least, to be honest, my favorite is we have a criminal audio series called Jazgot, where we explain in the, how now criminal audio series are so popular right now, but we are using this format to teach about how fraudsters work and how to prepare ourselves for that kind of contacts from their side. So we're doing quite a lot, I think, and because we are a bank for a little bit younger people, and younger people need more education, of course, then we are focusing on them, but absolutely not only on them.
Okay, Michalina?
Yeah, I've got the same successful page like Anna. So in my favorite page in Santander is Santander Open Academy, and I invite everybody in this page. We've got a lot of courses for the not just only our customers. It's open page for everyone. And we have done a lot of courses, special courses like for the Excel or SQL or business courses or language courses, special Spanish language. And we've got a lot of successful meetings with our clients, and this meetings is a face-to-face meetings. We call this ESG on tour, and we educate our clients in two ways, like the regulatory and the product area. So we open the meetings with the clients just because we try to open the dialogues with the clients, which one gives us opportunity to communicate transparently, and we try to collect the feedbacks for the customers and try to verify the challenges customers.
This ESG on tour, this is more for entrepreneurs, or is for I would say normal retail clients? I mean,
it's for the SME clients.
Oh, SME clients, okay. Okay, and you do it in your branches, or I mean, what is just curious? What is
sometimes
the format?
Yes, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends for how many people come to us. But this is the meetings for, and we've got the clients, we've got the people who work in a bank, and we've got the external experts. And we just open the dialogue with the clients. And the last meetings was in Warsaw, and we've got the 80 clients in this meeting. So it's a really good information for us, because the clients is really interesting for these meetings.
Okay. I'm just looking on the watch, and we have to come to, unfortunately, the last round of questions. I have plenty still the open question which I wanted to ask. But before we go into the last one, maybe because I have not seen any questions on the chat, so if anybody would like to post something, here we go. Some questions. So I encourage, but before that, maybe we go here. We have a long question. About impact of retail banking, investment strategy, regulation of financial data.
I've read it and happy
Is
to
it
take
not
it.
too much? Yeah, I mean, regulatory tsunami, I think this is the buzzword, which we know, not only from ESG area, but I think this applies very well to that. Anna, you want to comment shortly on that?
I can start because I'm hearing it a lot. Like, that's the question that's coming from different directions all the time. Aren't you tired with all of those regulations? And of course, it's time consuming. Of course, it's energy consuming. And there is not enough people on the market can help you with it. So we are learning and making mistakes and learning again. But at the end, I think it's giving us more opportunities than it's giving us threats. And especially when we're talking, for example, about mortgages and the new building directive, that's so much going to help our decarbonization as a banks. And I do feel that maybe the communication when it comes with regulations could be better. Maybe the learning curve, could be a little bit supported by government, for example. But at the end, I think it's for our benefit to have those, because without it, I don't think something changed before when we were not pushed a little bit. Let's be fair about that.
Okay, perfect. Then maybe I would like to move to the last round of questions, and I would like, because it was already mentioned, some KPIs like this client literacy or resilience, etc. I'm just wondering, I mean, about specific, if you have any specific metrics for this ESG initiatives in retail banking, if you could just share maybe some examples, what is used. And also your vision about, if we are talking about next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, I mean, what would be a successful achievement from your side? I mean, what level of metrics you would like to achieve? So once, if we meet in 3 or 5 years and would look back on the achievements in retail banking transformation, what would you perceive as a success? And so what is, I mean, how far you would like to go within this time period? Maybe Kadri, if you'd like to start.
Yes, so we have set goals very specifically, and in terms of retail banking, we have goals on green ratio. So like what's the share of our portfolio of energy efficient real estate, and at the same time we have also set a ratio on carbon exposure, and this is like the inverse ratio of the previous one. So what's the share of exposure to those the real estate that has the lowest energy efficiency ratio? And ideally over the next 10 years, together with the different industry associations and regulation, we hope to positively create a change so that those homeowners and real estate developers, they would retrofit and upgrade the whole building stock into high energy efficiency buildings and real estate. We also have set targets for the leasing part, but there obviously the regulation kicks in as of 2035 EU-wide. And again, just to change the carbon exposure of our whole portfolio. That's our targets where they go.
Michalina?
Yeah. I just laughing just because we've got our goals and we measure this, and every 3 months we just check our goals and we try to unveil this. And the first of all for us is green products for thermomodernization for the individual clients. And the second big goals is comprehensive supports for the SME and agro clients, because we've got the really whole hill in agro. So this is the big challenge for us.
Andrzej, metrics and maybe also the ambition level for the goals?
In BNP, we have officially communicated targets set at the bank's level, but definitely there are, let's say, decomposed by business lines, and within business line there are split between different products. So we've got our officially, and the most important goal is to achieve 10% of financing with positive impact, positive meaning not only environmental positively, but also social positive impact. And we do believe we will deliver the goal by the end of 2025, which is our strategy horizon. And of course, this KPI is translating to different internal KPIs, which are split in between business line. But if I may refer to the second part of your question, or the issue we are talking about now, this is the evaluation of the offer, the evaluation of financing in the future. This is from my perspective, which is the most important.
I think we lost Andrzej, or we have some connection issue. Here it goes. Okay. Sorry, you were lost for a second.
Okay. So I was referring to any governmental support, any subsidy which are available or will be available for our customers, not only retail, also for corporate and SME customers as well. But we could observe historically that PV market were boosted once we have Mój Prąd, My Electricity, phase 1, second, and first, second, and third one. The same we can observe with clean air program, which are now probably becoming more and more important in terms of thermomodernization financing because of the new rules which are implementing, I would say. So we can see that the future of retail ESG financing, it very much relies on the subsidy program available on the market.
Yeah, agree. Anna?
Well, I'm not gonna talk about the goals that are for the whole bank, where even when they are touching retail, because looking at the time, I just don't have it. But just focusing on those where I think we are a trailblazer on the Polish market is, of course, the financial health, which I've mentioned a couple of times. We will be also in the couple of next weeks submitting our SBTI plan. But we already have a goal around decarbonization of our mortgages, and this is to have at least 80% ratio of near zero building mortgages in our bank by volume. So we are focusing on that. When it comes to the future, I don't know, in 3 years, probably not, but in couple of years, I hope that most of our products will be more sustainable. So I don't think we're going to be focusing on that. I think that it's going to be shifting completely different way, more social way, more, helping the behavior, helping the, comfortable life of our clients. And I would assume that's gonna happen sometime. And I agree with Andrzej that the rest is not always in our hands. It also, coming back to the question from the chat, very much dependable on the regulations, the changing, the transformation of the whole country.
Okay. Anna, Kadri, Michalina, Andrzej, thank you so much for your insights. Our time is over, so we have to finish our discussion. But I hope that also you enjoyed the last hour and exchange of experiences. For me, it was extremely interesting, and I hope also for the audience. So thank you very much for your time and for sharing all the interesting insights today. To all the participants today, we are happy to continue the discussion, so do not hesitate to reach out to us, so we can also discuss in detail some examples, project examples, and some other experiences. Thank you also for your time, for joining us today during the vacation period. Many of you managed to do it. We will also schedule next webinars and inform you soon. And we'll also distribute the materials and the link to the webinar recording once it is already online on our webpage. So once again, thank you very much for today, for your participation, and looking forward to see you and discuss with you in the future. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.